Hey everybody, this is herculespetix, founder, curator, docent, and gift shop employee of the herculespetix Academy of Comic Book Studies. Today we're going to continue our look at Dark Horse Presents. We're going to look at 101 through 105 today, and there's a lot of good stuff in these issues, so let's get started. These came out all, I'm pretty sure, in 1995, so we're in the mid-90s here, and of course, wonderfully edited by Bob Schreck. Look at this, guys. We get an Aliens cover. That's not surprising because it's Dark Horse Presents, but by Bernie Wrightson. This is just a match made in hell, I guess. Just Bernie Wrightson drawing aliens. Contents page. And let's start off with this Aliens Incubation two-parter. It's written by Ron Mars, kind of famous superhero writer, and drawn by Bernie Wrightson. And as you can see, it's nice. So it has an interesting storytelling technique where the narration is by some guy. And we realize from what he says he's an earthling. He's, a human. He's talking about Earth. But he's talking about this other race of beings. Not very dissimilar from earthlings. And what happened to them. So they seem to be like a kind of peaceful race of explorers or something. But somehow their ship is harboring one of those alien eggs. And we know that's not good. Facehugger jumps out. Just Bernie Wrightson drawing aliens is just making me very happy. It's such a good matchup. And just like in all the alien movies, we see the process. Facehugger inseminates this poor guy. Facehugger dies after it's finished its job. And then this poor guy, a day or two later, he has a chest burster come right out of him. It's a baby alien, of course. And I love the way he draws this. We see them all they find the dead guy. And they're like, what the hell happened? But we see these 4 eggs in the foreground. So we know no good can come from this. And of course, then the aliens start hunting everyone down. And this is how we end the first chapter. It's just a great drawing all around. Now we have Iced, written by Steve Niles, the horror writer, and Paul Lee on art. I don't know what to think about Paul Lee's art. I think sometimes it's great, but some of these faces look just not good to me. It looks like he's on the cusp of figuring out his style. And I haven't seen Paul Lee since, but I wouldn't be surprised if he's awesome now. Or maybe he went another way and got worse. But there's little flashes of okay, I kind of see what he's trying to do. So we see this cop. He gets called in. Apparently there's some situation at the Diamond Exchange. Some gunmen. Some murders have gone on. He shows up. And the whoever stole basically a little sack of diamonds, they killed everyone in the place. The coroner shows up. They know each other. This cop's name is Peyton, by the way. And this coroner's name is Glenn. And then one of the cops says, hey, we have a live one here. Trapped under someone else's body. It's a woman. And Peyton questions her. Apparently, she passed out as soon as the ruckus started. She looked over, saw some gunmen. They killed the guy right next to her. She fainted. The guy fell on her. And luckily, she survived. Of course, she's very distraught. So, he asks her, after the feds are done questioning her, he says, hey, you got a place to go? Because I think she was just visiting town. She's like, yeah, I'm going to stay at a shelter. And I don't think this is necessarily from the goodness of his heart. It's probably because she's pretty hot. He runs out and says, hey, I got a spare room. You could stay with me. And she says, oh, that's great. So he takes her home. When he gets out of the shower, he notices she's talking to someone. She looks a little suspicious here. And she says, oh, it was a wrong number. And then Glenn, the coroner, shows up at his house. And he says, we got to talk. And he pulls a gun. And of course, Peyton's like, what the hell's going on? And Glenn says, I'm here for Greta, the woman. And she says, right here, baby, did you find the ice all right? And Glenn says, yeah, I found it. Buried right in their throats. Good job. And she shoots Peyton down in cold blood. And then he says, nice shoot. Glenn says, nice shooting, babe. Come on, we got to get out of here. And she says, what do you mean we? And you hear a gunshot. So just a fun little crime tale. I guess, obviously, you know, Greta and Glenn planned this whole thing out. This elaborate scheme. Now we have Scott Musgrove again, the alienator. Scott Musgrove of Fat Dog Mendoza fame. This guy is such a weirdo. The more I read of his stuff, I'm just like, he's so bizarre. As you can, just his art, just something's off about it. Like I think he's crazy. So this is the alienator. He has this little cherub sidekick. Not really a sidekick. It's almost like a pet. He's got a little string tied to its ankle. The cherub's name is Bullwinkle, or at least that's what he calls her, or it. I think it's sexless. I don't know. So he's busting down all these doors, trying to find aliens, and not having any luck. So I guess that's his thing. He just likes to find aliens and kill them. So Bullwinkle says, "I'm tired. My wings need a rest. I want to have a cigarette. I want to eat some food." Yeah, I guess Alienator's babysitting this cherub for a friend. So they go to this restaurant. And then there's just this weird thing. He picks the smoking section when she asks him. He says, I'm always smoking. And like we see smoke coming out of his ears, which I didn't even notice earlier. It's always been coming out of his ears. But I just thought, I didn't know what it was. Just very bizarre. And so then we see a paper airplane crash through the window. After just 2 panels of them sitting there. Well, 3. I don't understand this man at all. It's weird though. I really like reading his comics though, because you have no fucking clue what's going to happen. And then look at this guy. So we saw the paper plane, and now all of a sudden, we switch. We see this kind of superhero guy fighting, I don't know, a supervillain. Looks like a chicken. The chicken who's down for the count, he says, I don't care what you do to me. I won't stop seeing her. And the guy says, we'll see about that. So the chicken is completely dazed, and he's stumbling across the road. And now we cut back to Alienator. He opens the paper airplane. It's a note. And it said, why did Frank cross the road? I assume the chicken's name is Frank? And then we see this weird little stick figure running down the street. I don't know. If you know, send me your comments what you think happened in this story. What the hell's going on? And now we have Chapter 1 of The One Trick Ripoff by Paul Pope. This was kind of interesting because at this time, Paul Pope didn't do that Batman comic yet. He was still a pretty independent, self-published cartoonist. So just showing, once again, what a good editor Bob Schreck was. He was like, yeah, I'm going to have this guy in Dark Horse Presents. He's great. But he wasn't that huge then. He was pretty much just doing THB. So this one I'm not going to get into too much because I have the collection. And one day I'll show off the whole book. But I'll definitely show it off, but I'm just not going to get into it in complete detail. Basically, it's a crime story, But you know, like a Paul Pope story, it's not just a crime story. It's got lots of interesting characters and stuff. So we see this woman, and she's basically going through a heist. You know, like in those movies, people will be like, okay, let's go over it again. What are you going to do after that? So she's going over this heist to an unseen voice. And then finally we see him. It's her boyfriend, Tubby. And I should get her name, and hopefully I will in a second. I've said this before, I just love Paul Pope's art. I love his style. I love the way he slaps down ink. Look at this right here. Just the shadows of the fire escape. So noir, but also he makes, you know, it's different. Obviously his manga influence here. Look at these like kind of speed lines. So, Tubby's in a gang called the One Tricks. But he wants to rip off the One Tricks. He knows that the leader of the One Tricks has a safe in his office. He recently found this out. And apparently there's like $250,000 in it. You know, enough money to make it worth risking your life. And then like in all these movies, they just want to get the hell out of town. They're sick of living in this grungy city. And they're going to risk their lives to get this money. So she's still going over the plan. And we see almost flash forwards where we see her actually doing it. God. Even just this railing is just beautiful. I'm sorry, her name's Vim. And he says, Vim, are you okay? What is it? And she says, I'm afraid. And that's how it ends. So he's obviously, you know, not feeling the need to put cliffhangers in on a lot of these chapters. He knows it's going to be collected one day. He doesn't really need it. We have another Harvey Pekar written and Joe Sacco drawn comic, Rose for Greg Selker. So another little slice of reality from Harvey Pekar. And this one is just Harvey Pekar's chatting with a friend who's just telling him about this musician. And I guess this guy started a klezmer band, I think in the 60s. He's a great musician, and then he got into klezmer. So this is really just like a little article about this guy, Hankus Netsky. I love the shit like this, but it's not really like a great comic or anything. It probably would have been just as good as an article. And look at this, we get a beautiful back cover. I assume this is illustrating that second story, because this kind of looks like the woman, even though she didn't shoot him in a forest. But beautiful John Bolton painted colors and, you know, back cover. But yeah, I just can't believe how facile John Bolton is with what he does. He's so fucking good. As someone who doesn't draw, that kind of shit blows me away. It's like, how do you fucking do that? It's amazing. So now we have issue number 102, another Wrightson cover. And we have chapter 2 of Aliens Incubation. So now we're seeing those poor little alien guys getting just savaged by this alien. And then, of course, more aliens grow. Wrightson doing aliens. I fucking love it. We see them take one of them as an incubator. You know, just like in the movies. Face hugger again. So now there's like a bunch of aliens on the ship. These little guys are obviously screwed. I guess I should call them xenomorphs. I love seeing those inner jaws just puncture these little guys' skulls. They also talk about how the aliens their blood is like acid, and one of them shoots the alien and is just totally corroded. So as he was dying, he was the last guy. And I guess he hit a button. He hit the guidance system. So the ship lands on Earth. And now we realize what this narrator was, why he's recounting this story. Because he's telling us, he says, they're here now. I should be thankful, or we should be thankful they didn't land in the middle of London or Tokyo. They landed in this jungle. He's urging us, they can't be allowed to spread. And so obviously this guy has been running from the aliens, or he's got a little homemade splint with vines and wood. This guy's probably been through hell. He says, I did what I could, but not enough. It's going to be over very soon. You have to figure out a way to stop them. He's making this recording for humanity. And he says, you owe me one thing at least. Please find my wife. Tell her I love her. And then we see a shadow of the alien, a xenomorph grabbing him. And the tape recorder goes dead. Kind of fun. It's almost like a little primer for aliens. Using this story, they kind of tell us what the aliens are all about, which I thought was kind of clever, I guess, to introduce people to the concept. So here we have the Alan Bland story. That's Mr. Painter to you, Chapter 1. This is by Scott Shaw. And Scott Shaw, he had a black and white indie comic in the 80s called Billy Nguyen. I don't know how to pronounce it, but you know that Thai name, Ngyen, something like that. And I collected it. I kind of liked it. It was definitely different. It was quirky. It was interesting for black and white, during that explosion. Then I never saw what happened to that guy. But apparently, he's gotten better since then. And as you can see, he has this very odd, look at the shape of this guy's face. Kind of an odd style, kind of stylized. So we see this guy staring at a blank canvas. He's an artist. And he's having a mental block. His girlfriend shows up, and he's just going on and on about how everything's terrible. And she's kind of she's like, yeah, man, you're hitting the skids. Your phone bill's due. You're not selling any paintings. Your grunge jazz tuba quartet just broke up. And he's just like crying into his coffee. And she's trying to help him out. She's like, maybe I can help you get inspired. Here, I brought a painting over for you to look at. And he yells at her. He snaps. And she runs out the door and just says, screw you. I don't need this shit. So this guy's really at rock bottom. And the main thing is though that he just has nothing to paint anymore. He's out of ideas. He has a flashback to his art teacher who for some reason is like a pirate. He talks like a pirate. He has an eye patch. There's a lot of just silly humor in this. Some of it's pretty good. It's a pretty fun strip to read. So he's thinking of the words of his art teacher, and he says, our hero says, Alan Bland, he says, the painting. So he calls up his brother and says, hey, man, you want to go back to our old place? I don't know why his childhood home is still there, and it's still intact. And I guess the father just put it up for sale. Maybe that's why. So we have this goofy little Bill Keane-like diagram of them walking through. Instructions: place an extended index finger on each line. Trace them both through the house. So just a goofy little thing like that. Like, he's definitely he has a playful attitude to this comic. So he's not taking it too seriously. And then the reason why they're there is because this painting that basically Alan grew up looking at. And then Alan looks at it and he says, something tells me I can learn a lot from this painting. But first I've got to find out who the artist is. And then he says, Okay, okay, but now I have to sleep. They'll explain this later, why all of a sudden he's sleepy. We have a letter page, and we have another Harvey Pekar-Joe Sacco collaboration, this time about Sun Ra, an anecdote, a true anecdote of Harvey Pekar's life, where he was writing about Sun Ra for this magazine, and then he happens to get on a bus, and Sun Ra and his orchestra are riding on the bus, and he got to chat with them. So this is just, once again, a little journalistic piece about a jazz band or some kind of folk music band, like the last one. So now we have a Cal McDonald mystery. That's a long-running character of Steve Niles, the writer. And the art in this is by Casey Jones. That's the guy's real name, not the character from the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. And it's inked by Bruce Patterson, longtime mainstream comic inker. I used to love him as a kid because he inked all the classic Pat Broderick Captain Marvel stories. So he was one of my favorite inkers. And we see this giant engorged head, and Cal McDonald is holding onto him for dear life, and he injects it with this needle. I'm sorry, I forgot to mention, guys, this is called Hairball, this story arc of Cal McDonald. And the head crashes to the ground, dead. I like the sound effect there. So this is, if you don't know Cal McDonald, he's a hard-boiled PI, alcoholic, like a lot of those, Dashiell Hammett type characters. But it's almost like if you mix that with Kolchak the Night Stalker, because every case involves mummies, ghouls, giant heads that fly in the sky, all kinds of crazy shit. So they're always kind of fun. Steve Niles, he knows how to tell a story. His art is kind of leaves me a little cold. Kind of looks like a fan artist. But I have a feeling the Bruce Patterson inks are tightening it up, making it a little more palatable. So after this incident, Cal's in the hospital. He's got like broken legs, broken ribs, and he's just having a flashback to when he was a little boy. He found a headless torso in the woods near his house, and he didn't run and scream. He just looked at it for an hour. So he's just thinking about why am I like this? Why do I attract weirdness to my life? I always have. It's like I'm a weirdness magnet. So we see him in his office, and basically he drinks all the time, every day, almost at all hours of the day. He's a very high-functioning alcoholic. So this kid comes to visit him, he's like a young man, and he says, I'm not even sure if anything's happening. I don't want to go to the cops, but I have these two roommates. There's a house of a bunch of us, but these two roommates a few months ago moved into the basement, and all they do is spend all their time together. I'm just suspicious. I know I really don't have anything on them, but one day they left their basement door unlocked. Me and this girl who lives at the house, we went down there, and we found this in their freezer. They have their own private freezer down there. And it's a little tiny baby fist. It's that weird little thing. And so he escorts the kid out of the office, and he makes a plan with him. He says, listen, I'm going to come visit you guys. I want to talk to these guys. You're just going to tell your roommates that I'm an old buddy. Come to visit you. So we'll figure this out. You can just pay me in beer. So he calls up to see if there's been any baby snatchings, because he knows that the baby's fist is so tiny. It's either like a fetus right before being born, or a baby that couldn't be older than 2 weeks. So I guess there was a couple of baby snatchings, or at least babies that have gone missing. So he doesn't know what the hell's going on. He goes to the house. That young woman opens up the door. She's the one that went down into the basement with the guy who hired him. And this is the end of chapter 1. But before we end, we see this creepy looking guy from behind some trees looking at Cal McDonald, obviously following him around. Now we have chapter 2 of One Trick Ripoff by Paul Pope. Some more of this just beautiful ink slapping, ink slaying. That's so nice. So we finish right where we left off. Tubby is asking Vim why she's so scared, what she's scared of. And she says this whole litany of crazy stuff. I'm scared of sidewalks. I'm scared of little boys. I'm scared of the randomness of the world. I'm scared of ravenous, emaciated dogs. And she's just crying. So she's afraid of Jesse. Jesse is like a bigwig in the One Trick ripoffs. Apparently he's just a loose cannon psycho type. So he says, come up to the roof with me. And they look at the stars. And he tells her about when he was a little boy. That was his favorite thing, is to look at the stars. And he's showing off the constellations to her. And it seems to be calming her down. And they proclaim each other's love for each other. And seems like a kind of happy little end of this chapter. These stars look like he just took his white out and just flicked it with the brush. Okay, now we have number 103. Scott Shaw takes the cover with his painter character. I'm sorry, Stan Shaw. Did I say Scott Shaw? This is what I'm talking about. He's pretty good. I kind of like his style. So they go to visit their father, Alan and his brother Boris. They go to visit the father. And they want to find out the secret behind this painting. The father's an old hippie. Well, not even an old hippie, an old beatnik. And he tells them about, how one day he ran into this artist. And the artist's name is Painter, something Painter. So he bought one of his paintings as a young man. And him and his wife, the parents, discovered that whenever Alan was, having a tantrum or was nervous, they would show him the painting. And this painting would have a soporific effect on him, or a pacifying effect. And you know how parents are, when parents discover that if you plop your kid in front of a TV, it'll be like a babysitter. It's not the best thing, but of course you want time to yourself. So they use it more and more. So apparently his whole childhood, he was half conscious. Because anytime, every other day, if something happened, the parents would be like, look at the picture, fall asleep. So I guess he's staying at the old beat writer artist home. So they leave after talking to him. They go to the library. And just to show how silly this guy is, this book is 25 feet high. The big book on art. And you have to almost crawl into it to read it. So they read about Harlan Painter, the master illustrator. And there's not much on him. Because he really wants to find Harlan Painter. The article in that book was written by someone named T. Rasa, a journalist, who strangely enough looks very much like his old art teacher, including an eye patch. And T. Rasa gives him a little information. So he's following all these clues, and as you can see, he makes the page look like a jigsaw puzzle, the panels, and we see them even coming together, which I thought was kind of clever, as he's getting closer and closer to the truth. He says, I'm on the right trail. I could smell it, like the smell of burnt sienna. There's obviously a lot of Painter references in here and kind of puns and jokes and stuff. So he finds out where Harlan Painter used to live. Turns out he hasn't been there in 15 years. His roommate still lives there. And he's kind of pissed off that he just took off 15 years ago. And that's the end of this chapter. Chapter 3 of One Trick Ripoff by Paul Pope. And I'm pretty sure this is after Paul Pope went to Japan. Maybe it's not. But he does seem to have also that leisurely style like a lot of manga does. As you can see, we've already seen 2 chapters where it's just 2 people sitting in a room talking. You know, you don't have to have action every 2 pages like a lot of comic artists believe. He just lets the story just, you know, slowly roll out. Let's just know meet all the characters, and of course lets us languorously look at his beautiful art. So Tubby goes to hook up with his gang members, you know, the One Tricks. I guess they have to pull a job, which they supposedly is easy. This other gang, I think they're called the Mothers. The Moolah Mothers, I think they're called. They borrowed money from the One Tricks, so they're just there to pick it up. It's not supposed to be dangerous. You know, these guys are expecting them. They're just going to pay off their debt. So this guy's like a lieutenant. Everyone calls him Tricky. And him and his driver stay outside while Tubby and these 2 other gang members go inside to, I think these guys are like a near Asian gang, like either Pakistani or Indian. I like how this gang member, he's got like those dots. Like almost like that old Hindu art and stuff. I forgot to mention the grand poobah of the One Tricks is Fago. So he said, Fago sent us, we're here for the money. But then the leader of the Mothers, he's got a big gun right in his lap. And now we cut outside to Tricky. And Tricky's just telling his driver, he's just like, yeah, we're hanging around because I'm going to make sure none of them come out alive. So this is like a double cross. I guess Tricky wants to get rid of those 3. Maybe he knows what Tubby's up to. I'm not sure. Well, that's the end of this chapter. So guys, this is a treat. I guess at the time Dark Horse was putting out these lithographs. Apparently this was never published before. A beautiful Jack Kirby drawing, inked by Mike Royer, from like 70, I think. It was some kind of God's portfolio. Actually, let me tell you, in case you guys want to find these. It's from the God Trilogy, which I guess was a series of lithographs that Dark Horse put out. But I remember buying this off the stands and just being like, how the hell did they find this? I think I didn't even know I don't even think the Jack Kirby Comic Collector was out yet, the magazine. So this was just like, how could Jack Kirby have this just sitting in his desk for whatever, 30 years? No, 25 years? Really nice stuff. Amazing. Kind of makes me wish that Jack Kirby, I don't know, maybe did a few drugs and published an underground of just like weird stuff like this. So now we have chapter 1 of The Pink Tornado. Oh, wait. Is this chapter 1? Yeah. This is also by Scott Musgrove, but he's being joined by a guy named Derek Chamberlain. So I don't know the breakdown of art duties on here. Maybe Scott Musgrove just wrote it? Because it does obviously look different than Scott Musgrove's art. But I don't know if they collaborated or not. This one is, I want to like it because it's very odd. It's got that Scott Musgrove weirdness to it. But it's also its major flaw is that it's satirizing typical comics. Every word balloon, every caption is just a complete overdoing exposition. The exposition, where like for example, this is just one example. Almost every panel is like this. Will we never succeed in eradicating their stranglehold on the dwindling resources of this lone green and blue egg we all must learn to share with each other in harmonious and foresighted stewardship? So everyone talks really convoluted like that, which it's obviously a satire of it, but you also have to read it as a reader. So it's not fun reading it, even if it's satire. It's almost as ponderous as reading the the guys who don't know that they're badly writing. So the Pink Tornado is this weird little superhero. He's a fetus. And his assistant slash partner is Gottlieb. Almost like his Alfred, but a little more proactive. So the President Wilson Phillips calls him. And he basically says that the great nemesis icon, it stands for something like the International Conspiracy, blah, 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 that kind of thing. It's an acronym. He says they're up to something. We need you. And all these balloons are just completely convoluted. And just using 30 words where 4 would be fine. So he's talking to him through a telescreen, and then the president says, turn on your TV. I guess this guy's jammed every channel, and it's Victor von Canada, the Pink Tornado's greatest foe. And he's basically saying that I've teamed up with Icon. Dr. Canada, the provincial man. And of course, he's got some nefarious plan. Apparently, their Icon and him are going to steal time. And so that's the end of that one. Now we have chapter 2 of the Cal McDonald mystery, Hairball. So he's hanging out in the house. And, this woman knows everything. So they're kind of in cahoots. Her name's Mira, by the way. Myra? So those 2 dudes come home, the ones that are suspicious. One of them is Sean here with the long hair. He just doesn't even pretend to be friendly. He just walks right down his basement. The other guy seems like a nice, affable guy. He's just like, hey, how's it going? You must be Jerry's friend. So Cal and Myra go out to get a beer. And we see in the basement, we see the 2 friends. They open their duffel bag, and Jerry's head's inside, as well as the rest of his body parts. And also suspiciously, Jerry isn't around. He's late for the appointment. And so all of a sudden then, they're walking down the street. And remember at the end of last chapter, there was that creepy guy scoping out Cal. He starts talking to him. He just says some cryptic thing to him. And Cal tells Myra, she's like, oh, he's a ghoul. His name is Moloch. He's pretty harmless. He just walks around acting creepy. Talking about this prophecy when the monsters shall roam free on all of the earth. So they get their booze. They head back to the house. I kind of like these Cal McDonald mysteries too, because Steve Niles, he's a good writer. He's not just telling you a simple, mystery plot or horror story. He's got good characterization, and he makes at least you feel like these are real people, so you care about it more. So they're hanging out with John, the nice one, the nice of the basement dwellers. They lured him up with some beer, the promise of beer. And he goes into the kitchen to grab a beer out of the fridge, John does. And when he's in the kitchen, Cal hears him do this nasty, like hawking a loogie sound. He's like, and when Cal goes into the kitchen, looks in the garbage, and there's a giant hairball on top of the garbage. So the plot thickens. Now we have issue number 104. Scott Musgrove takes the cover duties to draw the Pink Tornado. Really nice cover. Beautiful paints going on here. All these zany characters. And we start off with chapter 3 of the Pink Tornado. I'm sorry, part 2. Chapter 2. So now Pink Tornado realizes he's going to have to get his old friends from the superhero group, which I'll try to remember their name. Oh, they're called the Squad Patrol. So unfortunately, one of the superheroes on guard, on monitor duty, is the superhero named Elder. And then, but you know who else is there is Earclops. Remember Earclops from the Fat Dog Mendoza story we looked at last time? So Elder gets the phone, and the whole shtick of Elder, he's like just a completely senile, half-deaf old man stereotype, you know? And he doesn't understand anything. Because he's like, who is this? What? This is a junk caller. I don't need any office supplies. Leave me alone. And Pink Tornado's trying to communicate with him, but he doesn't understand. Nonetheless, he finds the headquarters of the squad patrol, barges in, and he tells Earclops the situation. Earclops is such a dumb concept that it makes me laugh. So apparently, Dr. Von Canada, or whatever his name is, he stole the atomic clock. You know, that famous atomic clock, like from The Watchmen. And apparently they can control time with it. So they leave the Elder, since he can't do anything. And they all fly off to save the day. Here's Dr. Canada. He's got like the general of this, his name is General Store. And we see the atomic clock here. He claims that he now controls time. Here's Corporal Vorpal. I really like that name. It rolls off the tongue. Corporal Vorpal is the head of Icon. So he's in cahoots with Canada. And he's got a prescient here, Scott Musgrove, predicting how Canada would be our great enemy in 2025. Just kidding. Our great made-up, completely imaginary enemy. And so the Pink Tornado and friends are just showing up outside. Canada sees them on the monitor, and he basically says, let the battle begin. So we're winding up to the last chapter, which will be next issue. Back to the Cal McDonald mystery. So we hear some kind of commotion in the kitchen. And John excuses himself really quick. He goes downstairs, and Sean is kind of wigging out. And we see that Sean is almost, I don't know, a vampire or something, some kind of monster. And he's basically saying, let's just kill all those guys now. This guy's suspicious. But Sean's like, dude, play it cool. There's an easier way to do it, you know, more subtle way. So Myra goes in the kitchen, and Cal's worried. He's like, maybe you shouldn't go in there. And as soon as she walks in the kitchen, we see just this little slash. And it's a werewolf. And I'm pretty sure that's John. Yeah, it is John. So Cal McDonald realizes he's dealing with a couple of werewolves here. And he runs in the kitchen, hits John, werewolf John, with a bottle of booze, and then lights him on fire. Doesn't stop John from totally, you know, raking him with his claws. And then leaping at him while he's on fire. But Cal shoots him. And I assume Cal McDonald probably has silver bullets all the time in his gun, since he's always, you know, fighting beasties and creepy crawlies. So he escapes from the house. He's totally wounded. He's bleeding out of his gut. And werewolf Sean is getting closer and closer to him. And so he runs out into the street, and he totally gets hit by a car. To be continued. I think to be concluded, actually. Yeah, I don't know, this art, I guess it does the job. But, yeah, not very nice. So now we have chapter 3 of the Alan Bland story. That's Mr. Painter to You. So this painter's ex-roommate, the one who's been waiting for him to come back for 15 years, he says he gives him another lead. Gregor Overhammer Destronovich Jr. Apparently this guy is like, he's the kingpin of the art world. And here we see him here. He's almost like Darkseid or Thanos, like gravitas. I like how he has this very like Kirby-esque dynamic pose. All right, the hand coming out into the reader's face. And it says, "Go now, the answer to your unraveling life lies along this path. Follow my mighty hand thus to the next page." So, once again, Stan Shaw's just having a good time with this comic. So he meets Harlan Painter's agent, this guy. And this woman, I guess, knew him too. She says I had a crush on him, but there was no room in his heart for love, just aortas and his art. So he's not really getting much to go on, Alan. Once again, the girlfriend comes back. And once again, she's listing off his problems. Apparently, things are even worse. The phone's now disconnected. Your rent's late. And you're out of coffee now. So once again, he tells her that he has to find this Harlan Painter guy to but he knows that's the secret to his artistic block, and it'll help him. And then we see him run into a men's room, and it looks like he's straining to take a crap. And then he sees on the bathroom wall, "For a good postmodern time, call Mr. Painter," with a phone number. To be concluded. Very silly. Chapter 3 of One Trick Ripoff by Paul Pope. So remember, we ended off with that scary showdown. The one trick guy, he says, "Put the gun down slowly," and the other guy says no, and just blows him away. So some of the gang members grab the little kid with the coonskin hat, and here's where we find out why they're called the one tricks. Tubby says, use the trick, stupid," but the kid's too rattled. So he uses the trick. We find out what it is. He has like that thing that Preacher has, where he can tell you something and you have to do it. He says, "You can't see me, I'm invisible." And he is. They can't find him. But look at this, how his words float through the air as if representing this is the energy effect that's making you not see him. Or something to that effect. I really like this, especially because Paul Pope's such a good calligrapher. It looks really great visually. But interesting technique. The little kid in the coonskin cap, his name was Math Head. They totally kill him. Just blow his brains out. And they're like, "We got to find that skinny kid with the bunny shirt, that Tubby guy." So Tubby escapes the building. He did manage to collect the money in all that chaos. He stuffs it in his pockets. And he makes it out alive. Of course, they're totally chasing him. And just look at this bravura-like art here. Everything's drawn really crudely because he's rushing. Like if this, was film, you wouldn't really see the backgrounds. You wouldn't notice them because someone's running. Or in real life, I guess it would be like that. You wouldn't be seeing all the detail. So they find him in this restaurant close by, two of the gang members. And he uses the trick again. He says, "Your legs aren't working. And neither are your arms." And it works. The guy just falls down and he can't move. He tells the other guy that there's a big black snake coiled around his neck, choking you. You can't breathe. And the guy goes down. So he runs outside, and Tricky and his driver are still there. And he says, can't believe it. Tubby scuffed his way out. Too bad. And that's how we end this chapter. So we do have a cliffhanger there. Once again, Harvey Pekar and Joe Sacco give us a little biography of Felipe Alfao. It's the name of this comic. And he was just a Spanish writer in the 30s who became way more popular after he retired. He had like one book. And years later, it was reprinted. Everyone realized how great it was. But he basically lived his whole life in obscurity, worked at a bank or something. But then as an old man, he had to hear how like everyone was like saying, oh, what a great writer you are. So he's just totally embittered at that point. He was like, fuck you. Where were you 40 years ago? I gotta say, I love these little strips. They're really fun. They're just educational, you know. I never heard of this guy. But I shouldn't say I love these strips. I should say I appreciate them. It's nice learning little things like this. But as far as comics go, I still don't really even see the need to draw any of this. It's nice to get some Joe Sacco art, of course. And here we have number 105. This is that artist, Casey Jones, inked by Bruce Patterson. Obviously featuring Cal McDonald. And we start off with the last chapter of the story of Hairball. Cal McDonald gets hit by the car. Then the werewolf gets hit by another car. Can't believe the werewolf's still alive because it looks like he was crushed in between two cars. Kills the occupants of the car. He just takes the hood off and shears their heads off with it. And now I forgot, guys, this whole comic, Dark Horse fucked up. So a bunch of pages are printed out of order. So I think I remember how it goes. So Cal talks to himself. He says, this is really bad. He runs away from the werewolf. Werewolf's in hot pursuit. And the ghoul comes out. Remember the ghoul from earlier? Moloch. He basically says, run down this alley. I'll slow him down. Now we go this way. And Cal can't believe it. That this weird guy, this weird ghoul is running interference for him. So he tries to slow down the werewolf. But, you know, the werewolf can't kill him. He's already dead. So he says, run, Cal, run. I'm not putting on a fucking show here for you. So Cal runs again. He dives through this wooden fence. And kind of lucky, I guess when the werewolf tries to jump through the fence, he had all these shards of wood impale him. I don't know how, that was just dumb luck, I guess. I don't think Cal planned it that way. Now we jump back here, and we see him turn back into a human. It's that guy, Sean. I like how Cal has the tire print on his shirt after he was run over by that car. So now he goes to the hospital. Kind of bummed that Myra is, was killed. But then he's like, oh my God, she could be a werewolf now. I almost hope she is. Because she was a good kid. She didn't deserve to die that way. So now we're back to the normal order. He goes to his house, and Myra's waiting there for him. I don't know how she knows where he lives. And he tries to talk to her. He says, listen, Myra, you gotta go. I don't need any trouble. But, you know, it's not Myra anymore. It's a savage werewolf. So he blows her away. And even though he knows he's going to have to talk to the cops even more before he can go to bed, he's like, oh, well, what can you do? Now we have the last chapter of the Alan Bland story. That's Mr. Painter to you. And we see Alan. He has a beard now. He's obviously been trying to find Harlan Painter for quite a while. Harlan Painter's home, they make it seem like it's the gates of heaven. And he meets Harlan. This is Harlan Painter. Looks like Norman Rockwell or something. He's just a very unassuming guy. And Alan says, I need the secret to being a good artist. And he says, that's easy, son. Hard work, plenty of sleep, and always meet your deadlines. He shows Harlan his work. Harlan says, you're pretty good. That's nice. And now we jump ahead. We hear clippers, and we see all this hair on the ground. And we see this tattoo on someone's arm, born to paint. And then off screen, we hear, Alan, it's Betty. That's Alan's girlfriend. I heard you were back. I heard you found Painter. And he says, hold on a second, I'm shaving. And when he comes out the door, she's like, ooh wee, look what you found. And she has all these pictograms over her head, like hot dogs and donuts and a heart with an arrow through it and a choo-choo train. She obviously likes the change. And we see now, this is the new look for Alan Bland. The answer, the passion, the right blend of coffee, the true me, Alan Bland, guerrilla artist for life. So he's almost like that cliche painter. I like how his palette is just titanium black, black umber, deep black, French black. So I don't know if we'll ever see this character again. I don't think so. Now we have chapter 4 of One Trick Ripoff by Paul Pope. So Tricky hits Tubby with a wrench. He tells the driver, he says, get some masking tape. We got to close his mouth so he can't use his trickery on us, and tie him up. They have this kind of interesting discussion where the driver's like, why don't we just kill him? And Tricky's got a code, He's just like, he just took on some of the baddest motherfuckers, in the city, all by himself. He deserves better, and besides, it would just be wrong. So it did, and we also find out it was a total double cross. They even paid the mullahs, the mothers, to kill them. We still don't know why, though. Tricky also thinks it's bad luck to kill someone who is so formidable, I guess. We see that it's some kind of, maybe an alternate reality. The LAPD has tanks, and they're directing traffic. So, for all I know, the LAPD has tanks now. I don't know. It could be true. Please tell me in the comments if you live in LA. So, Tubby wakes up. And he still has all the money in his pocket that he took from, the mothers. And he keeps thinking to himself about the no-good double-crosser Swimmer. So we haven't met Swimmer yet, but apparently he thinks that Swimmer has set him up for this double-cross. So they just take him out to the desert, and they dump him off, tied up and with tape on his mouth. And they go to get some lunch. And we see Tubby freeze himself. And he puts all the money puts it into little piles under rocks while he counts it. And that's how the chapter ends. Now we have chapter 3, the last chapter, by the way, of Pink Tornado, the Canada debacle. So we see our intrepid heroes. They're about to land at the Icon headquarters where Dr. Canada is planning his nefarious schemes. Here's an example of this kind of writing. His assistant just says, how do you plan to play this one, sir? I'll tell you how, Mr. O'Prosper. For keeps, mano a mano, tete-a-tete, head-to-head. As we say around these parts, the Chicago way. Chicago style, up the whole river, as in con gusto, as in allegro, as in with emphasis added. And that's a example of like when he does it good. He at least has a lot of like funny wordplay. But usually it's just like him just reiterating things in different ways with 25-cent words. Kind of a fun 2-page spread. Them crashing into the evil headquarters. Squad patrol assemble. Indeed. So Earclops takes on Corporal Vorpal. And we finally see what Earclops' power is. It appears that junk flies out of his ears and attacks his attackers. We see like bottles of wine and hammers, little candies. That's just so Scott Musgrovian. Dr. Cannon apparently can have his arms just leap off his body and attack people. His motto is "Divided we stand." He tells the Pink Tornado, he says, "You forgot that in all things, Victor von Canada is like Canada, and Canada comes apart." So Pink Tornado wrestles his way out from these two arms trying to strangle him. And one of them falls into the atomic clock. And the results are catastrophic. And we see the clock is getting destroyed. The ever-loving premature recursive end. So I guess all time is stopped for all time. And this comic could probably go on for 1 million pages of just this. So kind of a funny, weird little ending. But overall, not a big fan of the Pink Tornado. I definitely prefer Fat Dog Mendoza style Scott Musgrove, where he writes and draws everything. And there's just a blow-up of the Paul Pope, a panel for the back cover. So there you have it, guys. Dark Horse presents number 101 through 105. And I'm trying not to do this many issues, but I figured I'd get the whole story. Since 3 stories all ended at 105, I figured I should just go up to 105, and you guys can see the complete stories. And hope you guys enjoyed looking at these with me. I'm kind of having a good time. I haven't picked these up off the shelf in quite a while. And I just love me a good, interesting anthology. And I love how ecumenical he's being Bob Schreck. Just like having total mainstream stuff side by side with just weird indie stuff. It's kind of fun. You never know what's going to be in the next issue. Thanks, guys. Hope to see you next time here at the Herculespetix Academy of Comic Book Studies.